When it comes to credibility, there are only two ways to get it: the fast way and the slow way. There's almost no middle ground, and there's no way to build credibility wrong. But building credibility is essential to your success, because with it, you can do awesome stuff, amazing things, and without it, you're kind of going nowhere. And that's what we're going to talk about today in today's podcast. The only two things you will ever need to know about building credibility for your personal brand, for your business, and we're going to talk about both of those ways, the slow way and the fast way for how you can build it. I'm not one of those entrepreneurs who gave up their six-figure salary and fancy office to start a business, and I wasn't selling lemonade to my neighbors when I was 7. I wasn't born an entrepreneur, and I never laid awake at night dreaming of owning my own business. My name is Ellery Wells, and I was forced to make a decision. Welcome to the Ellery Wells Show, where we talk with real entrepreneurs about real problems that they're facing and real solutions on how they are overcoming obstacles, achieving their goals, and making a difference in the world. If you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, this is the place to be to help you start, build, or grow your business. If you've ever started your own business or interviewed for a job, you know you're only as good as your word. It takes time to build trust, and your reputation can precede you. Have you ever walked into a room and had someone say, "Oh, I've heard of you"? And sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. I know from experience that credibility is key. I lost it, and I figured out a way to get it back. And if you want to know that story, go to ellerywells.com/credibility, and you can find a link. Credibility is key is the text there that's hyperlinked. Go to ellerywells.com/credibility to find out what that story is. But credibility is hard to build, and it's even harder to get back. But how do you build credibility? Before we start, have you thought about it? Have you thought about how you can build credibility with the people who you need to build it with? We've talked on the show, or we will talk on the show, about the 3 types of friends you need to make if you're going to be successful. We talked about the types of friends the types of people you need to avoid if you're going to be successful. So we're talking about, or we've looked at how you can be intentional with the relationships in your life to help you get further faster. So have you thought about how you can build credibility with those people? And have you thought about how you can build that credibility faster? But what I've learned is that there are 2 ways that you can build credibility. You can build it quick, or you can build it slow. You either build credibility yourself, or you can borrow it from somebody else. We'll go into both of those here in just seconds. Here's the slow way. Here's the slow way to build credibility. You can't build credibility if nobody knows who you are. If you were on a deserted island, your credibility would be 0. If you locked yourself in your bedroom, you wouldn't need credibility. Every time you connect with somebody in person, over the phone, over the internet, you impact your credibility. It either goes up or it goes down. You either become more reliable after you connect with somebody, or you become less reliable. To build your credibility, the first thing you need to do is to do what you say you will do, or DWYSYWD, DWYSYWD. You've heard me talk about that. I named my company DWYSYWD Media for that reason, because that's how I want you as a listener, as readers, as customers and clients to hold me accountable. I want you to hold me accountable to do what I tell you I will do, DWYSYWD. So every time you keep a commitment, you boost your credibility. Every time you don't, you lose more than you would have gained in the first place, even if you had screwed up. It sucks, but I'm sure you know that that's kind of how life works. If you have a blog or podcast, share your story. Open up and let people know what you're going through and what's going on in your life and business. Share more than just your successes. Offer up your mistakes and missteps as well, and you will connect with people who are also in the trenches, making mistakes and struggling with things and working hard. If you don't have a blog or a podcast, which by the way, you should have at least one of those. Every business should have a blog. But if you don't, and you're starting one, connect with people in person, buy them coffee or take them out to lunch. Get to know people in your community and ask them about their life. I'm really bad about that. I don't get out of the house all that often. I work here 6 days a week. Wednesday mornings, I usually go to Starbucks for 3 or 4 hours and work there. Not work there. Someone called me like, do you make coffee and like serve people? No, I take my laptop and I write emails and work on blog posts. I am not employed by Starbucks. I just take my work stuff and do work at Starbucks, just to be clear. But I don't get out that much. I don't interact with people in my local community, and I'll be honest, I should probably do a better job of that. But getting out of your comfort zone and sharing life's adventures, it does wonders for building credibility. And you build this credibility by providing consistent results, by achieving goals, and by admitting when you make mistakes, and by not placing blame on other people. And that's a big deal right now. We don't watch the news. I get my news from the Google Home. I walk downstairs and say, I hope she doesn't pick me up from downstairs, but I say, hey Google, good morning. And we've personified all of our robots, haven't we? But this device starts reading me news feeds and those kinds of things. I don't get the news, but we always hear, whether you're isolated from the news or not, how people are blaming other people for their actions. We have no responsibility in our culture and in our society today. It's pretty bad. And do you think those people have credibility other than the title that they were given or they took? And I'm not talking about anybody in particular. Do those people, if you sat down with them across the table, do they have any credibility with you? Would you believe anything that they said? Probably not. Okay, so that's how you build credibility the slow way. Here's how you build credibility the fast way. What if you don't have time or you don't want to wait to build your reputation and build your credibility over time? Well, over time is the best way to get lasting results. It's that way of like creating a solid foundation. But what if you can't wait? Well, there are times when you need to build credibility fast. When you want to build a business, when you want to get a promotion or gain a new customer, you need influence over that person. And when you need to build credibility fast, you've got to borrow it. And to borrow it, here are a few things you can do. If you are a blogger or a podcaster, guest post or do guest interviews. So write posts for other people's sites or interview them on your podcast, so you associate yourself with them. And we talked about this in depth in Exit Strategy. And if you haven't bought Exit Strategy yet, you should go to theexitstrategybook.com and buy a copy. But when you appear on somebody else's platform, you borrow the credibility, authority, and influence of that person. If you have neither one of those things, and again, if you're not a blogger or podcaster, if you have neither of those, ask for referrals and recommendations. A third party saying you're incredible is much more effective than if you were to say yourself, oh, I'm great at my job. So that makes it, when someone says he's great at his job or she's great at her job, that makes a significantly more impact than if you were to just say, I'm great at my job, and look, or even if you had testimonials for that. I'm great at my job, and she says so, and he says so, and so says so. That's why testimonials on your blog or your podcast or something, that's why those are so much more impactful and powerful, and why they help you convert visitors into customers. That's why I have them on 8weekstoexit.com. Consumers trust bloggers and reviews more than they trust advertisers in the news. That means content marketing is one of the most powerful brand building tools you could possibly use in your business. By enrolling in 8 Weeks to Exit, you will learn what to write about, how to tell effective stories, how to communicate directly with your ideal client, and how to put a content calendar in place to help you build the brand for your business. Plus, you'll get access to my blog post tools and templates and the things that I use to come up with all sorts of content ideas that keep readers engaged and coming back for more. Go to 8weekstoexit.com to become a student, to find more details, and to enroll. So here's the risk with both. Building credibility fast and slow. And I'm a fan of building credibility over time. Taking it slow builds a solid foundation of trust, but sometimes we need to move a little bit faster. Sometimes, unlike people here in Austin who just take their time and get on the highway going 35 miles an hour, and they go 10 miles an hour under the speed limit just so they can run the orange light, the yellow light, and the red light, sometimes you got places you need to go, and you can't wait to build your credibility slowly over time. But there are problems when you build your credibility and your reputation too fast. There are drawbacks and risks that go along with borrowing the credibility of somebody else. If the person you're borrowing your credibility from loses theirs, so if they lose their credibility and what is it, you've tied yourself to the wrong boat or whatever, you could lose your credibility as well. If you tie your flag to the wrong ship and it sinks, well, you could sink too. I'm sure there's a clever saying that I just can't remember what it is. If your rise to the top is too fast, you miss the opportunities that go along with that growth process. And that's a big deal too, guys. If you go from like zero to hero too fast, you will miss. Or if you went from a $0 business to $100,000 business or to $1 million business or whatever, if you grow too fast, you might miss and skip through and bypass some of the opportunities that go with the growth process. If you don't believe me, look at movie stars and professional athletes. They go from being broke and sleeping on their friend's couch and carpooling up to Hillsboro to get a slushie, and then you get money thrown at you and you can't really relate to or remember the struggle that it takes for people to build their brand, their reputation, and gain their money the long way. And I'm not saying that instant money and building success fast is bad at all. I would love to be much more successful, much faster, make much more money much faster. But there are things that there were challenges that we will go through along the way that are character building and that are credibility building. And just because you know how a delicious cake tastes doesn't mean you know the art of mixing its ingredients. So here's how we're going to wrap up today. Building credibility takes time. Sometimes the best credibility building thing you can do is to simply show up day after day, after day, after day, and put in the work. While you can't wait around for things to happen or for someone to dub you, thou art credible. You are ready. You can't wait for those things to happen, but you can always be building credibility in the background. So how have you built credibility? What's worked? What hasn't? Send me an email. Shoot me an email, Ellery@ElleryWells.com. Subject line credibility, and tell me what's worked for you. Or go to ElleryWells.com/credibility and leave a comment at the bottom of that page. Again, I want to apologize for the order of the episodes being, out of order. This one that you are listening to right now will be from August the 4th, and right now on my list, it's actually going to be slotted a couple episodes behind. I recorded one out of order, and I've been kicking myself ever since for doing that, and I apologize. Hopefully these have populated in. I know one of them hasn't. One of the episodes has not populated correctly into iTunes. It has populated in Stitcher, and it's on my website. But the one about why you should treat your online business more like a retail store, I'm looking in iTunes right now, and it's not there. So if you look in Stitcher, or if you go to ElleryWells.com/show, you will see you'll get redirected to the show page on the website. Up there at the very top, you'll see a list of all the episodes. It shows up there. If you scroll down, and there's a full list of every episode without any images or anything like that, it also shows up there. So I don't know why it's not in iTunes, but you can always check ElleryWells.com/show and see everything. So if you're totally relying on iTunes, I've got 163, or actually probably closer to like 200 episodes, different shows in iTunes. And I do my feed the same way everybody else does. So if iTunes is not picking it up for me, you might be missing episodes for other people's shows as well. So make sure you have bookmarked a place where you can go and you can check in on people's shows directly from the source, so you're not relying on iTunes. Because iTunes has crashed. I pulled up my show the other day and there was not a single episode. I refreshed it and they were all back. So anyway, I hope you're having an awesome day. And if you haven't checked out 8 Weeks to Exit, I hope you will. I've got a few affiliates promoting the program, and I'm really excited to help you finally get your business started. Go through the exact steps that you will need. And here's the thing. If you go through 8 Weeks to Exit, and at the end, you realize, the brand or the website or the business idea that I have been pursuing the last 8 weeks is not the one that I want to continue with. Guess what? I will have taught you all of the building blocks, all of the things that you need to do to just pivot and swap out a URL or build what you have just built again for something else. The principles that I want to teach you in 8 Weeks to Exit, which is 8weekstoexit.com, those are the same principles. Those will be the same steps that I go through every single time to build a new website. The plugins I install, the plugins I delete, the way I format everything, how I set up logos and menus, the way I do hosting, and how do I choose WordPress themes, because I use different themes for different topics and different websites, and how to build a brand, how to do SEO, how to connect social media, all of those kinds of things that you might have questions about. I do the same process every time I build a new website, and I've built a few dozen at this point. And people using the processes that I want to show you have built a few dozen more. So this stuff works, and I would love to teach you. Go to 8weekstoexit.com and enroll before time runs out. Because if you wait too long, we'll be off to the class will be closed, and we'll be off to the second one. And I promise you the price is going to go up because this stuff works. I know it works. I just haven't tested this formula, and that's what you get the discount for, how this process will be delivered. But thank you for listening to the Ellery Wells Show. I'm your host, Ellery Wells. Go do something awesome.